you might receive a message to just click got it. All right, let's continue with our project. This is the Mila house. If you recall, we finished last class by creating the levels, and a new feature in Revit 2023 is the ability to display levels and grids in a 3D. Previously, you weren't able to do that. There's one aspect of levels I did not clarify. We created levels. We said that levels are work planes that are parallel to each other that define the placement of certain structural objects like the top of floor. I also show you some of the properties of a level. You can enable the symbol of a level to be displayed either to the left or the right using this checkbox. You can also create an arm and an elbow to display the symbol. And you do that by clicking this little break line. And then lastly, when we created, there were two methods of creating a level. You can do it the long version, which is using 2 points, first point, second point, or you can using an offset pick line. You pick an object and define an offset. That's probably the easier way of doing it. Now, when we create a level using the manual method, you don't have to do this. Or let's do it together. Yeah, let's do it together. When we create, I'm going to create a new level above the roof ridge. So go to architecture and then hit the level tool. The level tool is under the datum object. Give me a second. I'm going to disable the help because I don't like that. All right, so if you go to the architectural tab and then go to the level tool, and you create a level, I want you to notice in the options bar this choice here. There's a checkbox that's called Make a Floor Plan. And there's another one that is called Plan View Types. And notice that whenever a level is created, it creates 3 types of floor plans in the project browser. It creates a ceiling plan, a floor plan, and a structural plan. And that's why in the project browser, you find a set of structural plans, a set of ceiling plans, and a set of floor plans. So these views are created automatically as a result of enabling this checkbox. Does that make sense? But like the structural plans is not something that you guys want. We're not structural engineers. So we're going to delete the structural plans from the project browser. And the way to delete views is that you can click Control to select multiple views. And then right click and hit delete. And so to avoid that from happening, when we create a level, we just disable the structural plan and say for every level you create a floor plan and a ceiling plan. And a ceiling plan is the same, it's a view that's looking upwards. Now there are sometimes levels that are just reference levels that you don't necessarily want to have a floor plan associated with that. And for example, the top of foundation, you don't necessarily want a view that is called the top of foundation level. Or if you have a stair landing, you don't necessarily want a floor plan that displays stair landing. And so when you create a level, you decide whether you want to create a view in the project browser or not. And in this case, I'm going to create one above the roof level. I'm going to disable making a plan. And then using the alignment tool, just randomly, just going to click one here and another view here. And notice now that this level 6, I'm just going to call it site. And you see the difference? There's a difference here. The color. These ones are blue and these ones are black. So a blue color means that it's associated with a view. And a black level means that no view associated.
Hey, Cesar, quick question. I just tried to name mine site and I got this error message that says that name is already in use and I need to enter a unique name.
Good catch. And I had a typo here. So levels can only have unique names. And so instead of, and notice that there is already a view in the floor plan called site. So I'm going to call it overall site.
Okay. Thank you.
And the reason for that is that Revit forced the designer to create unique floor plans, right? Like you cannot have 2 level ones. If you're creating a construction documentation, there's a construction level 1, there's a furniture level 1, there is a equipment level 1, but you cannot just have 2 views be named the same. It's to reduce the risk of confusion for the user and for the documentation. So notice now that this is a reference view and this is a level. This is a reference level and this is actually a level with views associated with that. No.
Cesar, I'm sorry. Is it the reason why it's blue is because you created in a different view layer, or how did you create it so it became black?
No, the difference is this checkbox. If this checkbox is the stable, then it is going to come black. And if this was enabled, it's going to create views in the project browser and it's going to come as black, as blue. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question here? If I delete a reference level, nothing happens, right? It's just deleted. But you don't do this. But if I delete a view, a level that has views, Revit is going to give me a warning. Hey, you're not only deleting that level, but you're also deleting this set of views in the project browser. So think about it before you delete a level. And Revit is good at reminding people. Okay, I'm going to delete that reference level. That was something I missed explaining last time. And let's move into the discussion of grid. So open the floor plan level 1. Let's go back to my reference image in the background here. And let's look at some of the grid system in here. We have 4 bays in the horizontal grid with grid names 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3 bays, 3 horizontal bays with grid A, B, C, D. Revit loves to restart numbering from the last created element. So for example, if I create a grid, the first grid is going to be called 1, the second 2, the third one is 3. You can cancel the command, and then the next time you reinitiate the command, Revit is going to remember the last input of the type it created. You can override it and restart a new sequence, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to use these reference planes that are already in the model to create these grids. Now, another thing you should know, levels must be created first before you create grids. Because the grids are also reference planes that are going to intersect all across the existing level. If I create the grids first, they're just going to show up in whatever level is present, that you're not going to see them in the levels above. And that's why in the order of sequences, create level first, and after the levels, create the grids. And what's a grid? A grid it's a work plane that defines the location of a structural element, either face of the structural elements of the center of columns. And it's used as well as a way to identify structural tags. So in floor plan level 1, let's do a grid together. You go to Architecture tab. In the datum panel, hit the grid tool. To make it easier on us, I'm going to choose the pick line method. It is the arrow with the green light, the green line. And pick, let me see if it picks the reference plane. It doesn't pick the reference plane. Oh. If it was a model line, it will do it. So this uses another object as a reference, and I cannot do it, unfortunately. I have to use the two-line, the two-point method. And when you create a grid, the first point is the grid end, and the second point brings the bubble, the number. So if you want to have the bubble at the top, you create the grid from the bottom up. So first click, let's pick the end point of the reference plane. And then second click, the end point of that reference plane, and that's grid line number 1. There's also a grid line 2, which I think is aligned to the, and I don't know why, but it's aligned with the opening of the, with the storefront. So, you know, for my money, I think I'm going to use this reference plane. We're going to diverse from grid line number 2 in the image. So for grid line number 2, let's pick the end of the first point is the end of the reference plane. The second point is this one. And you see how Revit automatically named this grid as grid line number 2. You don't have to manually input anything. It does remember the sequence of the last item. Then we're going to create a grid line number 3, grid line number 4, and grid line number 5. And I use a combination of the zoom, you know, to zoom in, zoom out in order to snap. I should have 5 grids. The size of the grid is relative to the scale of the floor plan. These are 1/4 of an inch. If you change this to 1/8 of an inch, then they may become bigger. Yes. If you change this to 1/2 of an inch, then they become smaller. They are annotative objects that scale up and down according to the scale of the view. I'm going to leave it at 1/4 of an inch. That's a relatively good scale for this particular view. And then the grids are visible in the upper level. If you go to the mezzanine, for example, that the grids are visible there. If you go to the roof ridge, the grids are there. It's a work plane, and it's aligned across all the different views. When you do this in AutoCAD, in multi-story building, this is typically a line, right? And so if you move it in one level, then you have to manually go to all the different levels and adjust. And that's not a very smart way of doing it. Revit treat grid lines as work planes, and the line is a projection of that work plane in the level it belongs to. You move the grid, and it moves across all the different floor plans. Let's do the horizontal one. This is alphanumeric.
Cesar, I have a question. I'm sorry. If by mistake you create another line in a different place, it is possible to delete that line and rename like all the numbers, change all the numbers?
Yes, I'll give you an example. I created 4 and 5 here. Let's say I delete them, and then I'll do it again. Revit is going to remember the last input, and so the last input was 5. This is going to be number 6. That you can see is number 6, but I can go back and manually override it and say, hey, this shouldn't be 6. This should be number 4. Now I manually overrode this. The next one I created is going to be number 5. Grid from here to here, and you see it's number 5. So at any point you can manually override a value, and Revit will remember that value. Let me give you an example, another example. Let's say this is 4.1. I manually overrode the value. The next value that Revit will do, it's 4.2, because it follows the nomenclature according to the last input. Does that make sense? So I'm going to override this and change it to 4. This is manual override. The next value is 5. And that's exactly what we're going to do with the horizontal grid. We're going to place grid line number 6. We're going to rename it as A. And so the next value is going to be B. And you can make alphanumerical combinations. For example, 8.1. The next one is going to be 8.2. Okay, let's do A. Architecture grid. Remember, the second click brings the bubble. So you go architecture grid, first click, second click. This says number 6. That's not the system I want. So I'm going to click on it and change 6 by A. This is a new numerical system. Now Revit is going to create B as the next one. And then if you don't cancel, the command will remain active until you hit escape. Revit remembers the sequence, and it grows from there forward. And when you're done, just hit escape.
Cesar, mine is still using numbers, so I got a number 6 instead of A.
Yeah, if you already have them all, it might be faster just to rename them. You select it.
Oh,
click.
you do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Then is there a way to move a grid line really easily?
Move a grid.
Yeah, put one in the wrong place.
You can, if this is like in the wrong location,
Oh,
you can just drag it.
literally grab it. Okay. Thank you.
or use the move command. I haven't taught you guys how to use the move command, but the move command it's going to appear when you select an object in a contextual tab. And the
I'll try
move,
one.
the move works two ways. First, you click a point in the object. This is the first point. And second, you pick the destination. Source and destination. So you pick from here and you move it there. So after hitting move, pick point, destination, second point. Okay, any question here? Anybody need me to repeat anything?
I have a question. This is Isabella. My sketch is invalid. Grid sketch cannot contain more than one loop. So when I try to quit sketching, it won't let me get out of the sketch mode.
So this is what happens. When you did a grid,
Yeah.
you probably pick multi-segment grid, which take you into
Yes.
sketch mode.
That's
And
right.
multi-grid, it's when you have a composite grid line. I don't know, this is very often used in technical drawings, but sometimes you have a combination of a line with an arc and another line here. Like, I think in some facades, you may have these conditions. And when you finish, this is the grid. But you don't want that in this one. So just hit the red X in the contextual tab to get out. And instead just use the tool line.
Got
This
it.
is the draw tool. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to double check, if you go to the mezzanine level, you should see all the grids there. If you go to the roof ridge, you should see all the grids there. If you go to the 3D view, the 3D house over here, this is new in Revit 2023, the ability to see grids in 3D. And so if you switch to a 3D view and the grids are not visible, check the properties of the view. There is a option here that is called Show Grids with a button that says Edit. This is in the properties of the 3D view. And this is going to display a dialog box where you can selectively display which grids are visible. And if you hit them all, if you click a checkbox on all of them, notice how these grids are visible in every level. Sometimes this is too distracting for a 3D view. And so you may think about it if you want to do it or not. I think it's a little distracting in 3D view for me, for my money, so I'm going to disable it. But it's a choice. It's something you can do if you want to. All right. Grids and levels are covered. Let's now talk about walls. Let's save this file. And let me show you another thing. If you open a lot of views in Revit, notice that all these views are stacked in the upper part of the view, right here. And then if you continue open more views, they're gonna get, there's no more space for additional tabs. So if you click this drop down icon on the far end, then you're going to see the list of all your views that are open at the same time. Having too many views open, it's a little detrimental to Revit because it consumes a lot of RAM. Revit has to track the aggregate change of all the views across all the views. And so I recommend to have 1 or 2 views at the same time. And so if you want to just make the level 1 the active view and close the rest of the views, you can do it in a single step using this quick access bar. This is close views. This is going to close everything except the active view. So you do that. This is click this icon, and now we close everything except the active view. It's in the quick access bar. All right, let's talk about partitions and walls. A wall in Revit is not a 2-dimensional, is not 2 parallel vectors like you do in AutoCAD. It's actually a 3-dimensional assemble with properties that display and assemble as it's going to be built. And the wall tool, it's Revit comes with a predefined list of out-of-the-box wall types. So if you open the project browser and open the family branch, and then scroll all the way into the walls, there are 3 families of walls. And if you open the basic walls, these are all the different types. All these different partitions are out of the box by template. So when you start a new project, the template comes preloaded with these basic partitions. Now, these are too generic to be used in a technical documentation. And so a lot of firms, one of the first tasks they need to do is to build their library of basic walls. And they will have the right parameter, the right thickness, the right materials, the right rendering conditions, and the right nomenclature. All of your technical architects and know that walls have you have your own system of classifying tags, and every firm has different ways of classifying the different partition types. This is an example of what a container file look like. Remember, walls are walls system families or component families? Any taker?
System families.
System.
It's a system family, meaning that you cannot save the file, you cannot save the partitions as a RFA. But what companies do is that they create this thing that is called a container file. And a container file is a collection of the typical partitions that they use in their practice, along with the properties needed to do the appropriate documentation. This is a container file by a small firm. I'm not going to reveal it. I helped them set this up. But it has the way the firm preferred to tag the partition. And that includes, I think, the rating, whether it's a steel or concrete or wood. I think T means steel for them. 2, I think, is a sequence, and then an optional suffix that it's aligned with the way they schedule it. And then this is a custom tag that works for that specific firm. If you ask technical directors, or if you ask Jim, for example, there's so many different ways of doing this. It's just a matter of stick with one system and make it work. And so let's look at this particular interior partition. This is metal stud walls with G-board in both sides. Very simple. The tag is that type property. Here it is. This is what it means. The first one is the fire rating. The second one is the assemble, a modifier, and a stud dimension. And the combination of these four symbols, of these four parameters, is what makes this tag, right? I mean, this is not the only way of doing it, but this is the way this firm decided to do it. You guys probably have, if you're using Revit, your firm probably had this already defined for you. What we're looking at here is a label with 4 different parameters concatenated. So maybe this is the right time to explain what is an instance parameter and a type parameter. Okay, everything you see when you select an object in Revit, everything that is displayed in the property window, it's called an instance parameter. So that means is properties that are unique to this particular partition. So, for example, the phasing information, the cross-section, identity data, comments, mark. These are unique properties to that object. And then there are other type of properties. In the edit type, there's on the property windows, there's a button called edit type. If you hit that button, select the wall and then hit edit type. These are called type properties. And type properties are the properties that are common to all the elements of the same type. A little redundant. These are called type properties. So if you change a type property, it changes for all the elements belonging to the type. So this interior partition is called 1T2A. And if I make any change to the type property, I'm changing all the partitions 1T2A. So an equivalent in the AutoCAD world is that you update a block, right? And then you bring that block into AutoCAD and it updates the rest of the blocks. So it's the same. Here you're changing the properties of a type, and everywhere you see that type, the property will be distributed. Whether the instance property is unique to that object. Does that make sense? All right. This is in the test in a couple of weeks. So pay attention. Basic 101. Instance properties are unique to an object. Type properties are common to all the elements of the type. So inside the type properties, there is a parameter called structure, and this is the core of how an assembly is built. If you hit the edit button inside the this type properties, you're going to see the edit assemble dialog box. And it might seem a little scary at the beginning, but it's pretty simple. In order to have a visual reference, open this button called Display Preview. And this is what's happening. You have a section of a wall from the exterior side to the interior side. This is the exterior side, and this is the interior side. And it's a system of layers. The first layer, has a function. The function is a finish. It has a material. It's gypsum wallboard. And the way the material it's represented in projection and in section is driven by the material. So we're going to have an entire discussion about materials when we talk about interiors, and I'll go more about that. This is the thickness of that material. This is 5/8. And it wraps. And when I mean wraps, it means that at an end condition, it just turn around. Does that make sense? So that is layer number 1. Then we have something, the structural layer number 3 is this one. It has metal stud and is measured 2.5 inches. And then finish, the row number 5 is finished too. This is on the interior side. This is interior. This is 5/8 of an inch and it's G-board. The graphic properties is driven by the material. And then you have row number 2 and row number 4. Those are not technical materials, but these are just delimiters. And what that means is that every layer in between the core represents the structural elements of a partition. So you see that red line, that green line here is maybe hard to read, but that green line, those are the boundaries of the core. Everything that is in between the core have structural properties. And why is that? Because when we move this model into structural analysis, the structural analysis, the structural analysis program like Tekla ignore everything that is outside of the core for weight purposes or for structural analysis purposes. And it only focuses on the structural side, right? Does that make sense? So you can modify all these parameters. You can change the thickness, you can change the material, you can add additional layers by using the insert button, the delete, and then you can move the relative location of the layer using the up and down. And to do that, you have to select the layer, move it up and down. So there are other parameters associated with the partitions. For example, the total thickness, which is important for technical. This has to be actual. This is real, right? Total thickness of this partition is 3/4. The R value and the thermal mass is it's the aggregate result of the materials. So when we go inside the material library, there is a R value and there is a thermal mass value, and the aggregate conditions of all the layers is what you see here. And this is important for like Title 24 or for thermal analysis. The structural material checkbox is only available for layers that are within the core. Notice that I cannot select it for the finishes. That makes sense how partition is structured. So let me you can build new partitions from scratch. I'm going to show you how to do that. And let's jump back into our floor plan level 1. Any question here? All right, let's build very quickly walls, and then we're going to build a wall from scratch. When you hit the command wall, Revit presents you with several things. And this is what makes it different from AutoCAD. These are ways of these are methods of create walls. These are
Sorry, Cesar, how did you get to the wall again?
Architecture, wall. Just hit the architecture tab, wall tool.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
These are options. And these are the wall properties. And when we create something in Revit, we always have to look at these three things. What is the method of create something? What are the options? And what are the properties? And that's why the eye moves a lot when we use Revit. And it's going to take some time to get used to. The property window also displays the type selector. This important part, type selector. And this has a little drop-down list that display all the types available for the category of wall. So when you create a wall, look at, press the type selector, and this will give you access to all the partitions available in the project, which are exactly the same types you will find under the family browser. So these match this list. Some companies that do, especially that do all type of a lot of different type of project, they can easily have 40 to 50 types of partitions, because it's not all, and I'm speaking because I've worked with very big firms, HOK, for example, and they have a container file of about 50 different type of partitions. And that include every possible combination, you know, 1 layer, 2 layers, where it has soundproofing, whether it was partial height, full height, whether it was anchored to the floor or it was anchored to the top. It can get very elaborate, and it all depends on how technical you want to go, and how much information the partition types need to convey. But these are just basic ones. These comes out of the box, out of Revit. And let's create something very simple, a generic wall. So choose the generic wall type. Let's pick the 5 inches, generic 5 inches. No, let's use something simpler. Let's use the generic 4-inch brick. And then let's create a wall. Let's look at the options. Walls are created by height or by depth. 99% of the time in architecture drafting, we're going to use it by height. And by depth means that from the level you created, it's going to go down by a certain depth. Structural engineers sometimes like to build foundation walls using the method of depth, but by default, we're always going to use height. The height of a wall can be defined by levels, or it can have unconnected height. In this example, the wall that's going to be created start from level 1, and it goes to an unconnected height of 20 feet. But you can make it parametric and associated with a level. Like you can say it goes from level 1 all the way to the mezzanine level. If the level in the mezzanine increases, all the walls that are associated with the mezzanine level will increase as well. But for now, I'm going to leave it unconnected. I'm going to keep it at 20 feet. These are our options in the creation of wall. Location line. Let me show you what location line means. And I'm going to start this. When you create walls, you can choose to define the location line as a center line finish face, or core face. A location line is the vertical plane that anchors the partition to the ground. And so when you create walls by center line, then the location line is the geometrical center of the entire assemble. You can build partitions using the finish face. It could be the interior or the exterior. Or you can use the core. The core is the structural layers. And it could be a structural core interior or a structural core exterior. And the method, the location line that you choose define how the walls will connect. So for example, if I have a chain of different partition types, if they are connected using the center line, this is how they will look. If you connect them using the finish face, all the partition will be aligned either with the interior or the exterior of the finish lane, or you can choose to use the core face as options. That makes sense? All right, so when you create walls, you have to pick what is the location line. My recommendation, if you're doing like interior retrofit and an improvement or interior work, wall center line is the typical one. If you're doing shell and core, something that's very critical is the location of that finish face. And so the assemble could change, and but it's not going to bleed over outside of I don't know, terrain or a site constraint. So for exterior walls, I would say pick finish face interior. And then core face is less used, but sometimes it's used by structural engineers who are placing, I don't know, steel structure where the face of the steel is the anchor point for the contractor.
Isn't that basically face of stud? Same
face
concept.
of stud.
Yeah.
Exactly same concept. Yeah. All right. So wall center line is the location line. This checkbox, that this chain, it creates a loop of connected walls. If you disable this, then you have to create one wall at a time. Like a wall is created using 2 points. But if you enable this, it's going to be a loop of chains like a polyline of walls. So always keep it on. It's easier. If I create an offset, I'll explain that in a little bit. And then radius is to create around an arc wall. All right, let's create our first wall. First point, second point. As you create a wall, you're going to see this temporary dimension and also a temporary angle. And you're going to see this, like the location line is that dash line. And this is a 2-point method. This is the method, it's 2 points. And then you can type on the fly the size of the wall. If your wall needs to be 8 feet in length, just type 8. And then hit enter. And then hit escape. I just created a wall that is 8 feet in height and 8 feet in length. And if you zoom in, look at this grip. It's at the location line of a wall. Let's do more. Architecture wall. Let's do something different. Let's make it unconnected, 20 feet. Let's use the face exterior. And let's use a different method. Let's use this rectangle method. This is going to create 4 walls in a rectangle. First click, second click, escape. And when you click on the wall, look at the grip. The grip of the wall, it's in the exterior side. Notice also this symbol here. It's like a double arrow in different direction. This is in the test too for next week or a week from today. This indicates the exterior side of a wall. You can flip it. If you click that double arrow, now the exterior side is in the opposite direction. And notice that Revit uses the location line as the mirror plane when flipping direction. So the location line anchors the wall to the ground and is used as it anchors it. And so if you flip it, that plane remains fixed. Another thing, let's do more. Wall, let's use a different method. Let's do a circle wall. It's the 5th icon in the draw tool. I think you need to define the radius. Escape. Let's do another method. Let's do an arc wall. There are two types of arc walls. The first method is the start, end, and radius, I think, which is this method here. And then the second method is no. The first method is first point, second point, and then yeah, the radius. The radius is the last one. Let's do another one. Let's use the second method. The second method, the first point is the start point. The second point is the end point, and the third point is like an extrusion along that. So two different methods of doing arc walls. I personally, I think I use the first method more often. Every time you create something in Revit, you're going to see this temporary dimension. And these are ways to locate the wall relative to the closest object. And you can use them to relocate elements. You can change, for example, the radius of this. You can also change the length or the angle. Yeah, these are the angles. You can do elliptical walls, peak line, half elliptical. And another one that is a good one is a wall by phase. And what this does is, given a conceptual design that is massive, convert a phase or use the phase as the location line of a wall, and it will inherit the wall. All right, let's do a chain of walls of different type. So I'm going to use a combination of two line walls and arc walls, and I'm going to connect them in a single loop. So wall, use the two-point method, 1, 2. Because it has the chain checkbox enabled, it will continue creating it. 3, 4, and then if I want to add an arc, you can just flip methods on the fly. And I say, okay, this is going to be an arc wall. And I continue using arcs. And then I can flip to like a line again. And it's not going to stop until you hit escape. Let's look at some of the instance properties. After you create the wall, you can always go back and rethink the properties of a wall in the instance properties. You can change the location line. You can change the base constraint, the top constraint, the unconnected height. This is afterwards. So if you fail to look at something specific about the wall, you can always change it afterwards. Like I'm going to change the location line of this wall to finish exterior, finish interior, core. In this case, the core center line and the core face exterior is the same as the finish because this is a brick wall, etc. All right, this was our playground. It has nothing to do with the project. If you look at it in 3D, this is the fun exercise that we did. Just a word on the height. Walls, like I said, they can be, the height of the wall can be associated with a level, and that's a property of the top constraint. So if I select a wall and say constrain it to the mezzanine level, the wall is going to be constrained to the height of this level. So if this height moves, the wall follows. This is useful when you have a very plastic conceptual design and you don't want to worry about the walls not getting connected. Or if you want like rated walls and you want them to connect always to the underside of a floor, then it's a good idea to connect them to a level.
Cesar, could you repeat how to do that again, please? I missed the beginning of it.
Yeah, pick a partition, and in the top constraint and the instance parameters, you can constrain the top to be associated with a level. Roof ridge, for example, this is now this wall has the height of the roof ridge. All right. In addition, speaking of walls, there are a couple of extension parameters that they are called offset. So there is a top offset and there is a base offset. So a base offset is usually a negative value and the top offset is a positive value. So what that means is that the wall is connected to the ground level, but in addition to that, it's going to have a negative offset of -8 inches. And what that means is that from the level, you see the location line is at the level, it's going to have a negative offset of -8 inches. And in construction, this is useful because sometimes walls are not exactly at the finished face, but they overlap the face of a slab, or it needs to connect to the to another level below. And then this handle pointing down, it's a manual way to override the base offset. So in 3D view, if you pull that handle down, and this is on the test as well, so pay attention, this is the base offset. If you pull this handle down, what I'm actually doing is changing the value of the base offset. And the counterpart is the opposite side. This one here, it's creating a top offset. So what this is good for creating parapets, for example. You can do it, you can say this wall goes from level 1 to the mezzanine, and then above the mezzanine, and it extends 4 feet high, 4 feet above the mezzanine. And you can pick multiple walls and assign the same properties at the same time. Like I want all my walls associated to the mezzanine, and I want them all to have a top offset of 4 feet. And there you go. From the mezzanine, all the walls have a positive offset of 4 feet. That makes sense? Okay, so I'm giving you a lot of information about how create walls. Let's build them for our, and this is a brick wall. And notice that the reason they look as brick is because in the type properties, the brick material is associated with that, and the brick will display a foreground pattern that look like this, and an RGB color that is like reddish brick color. And then when it also has a cut pattern that display a diagonal pattern, and the properties of the material is what gives the wall its visual representation. I'm going to talk about that in the next class. All right, so for now, let's create our walls in our building, and for that, I'm going to use the method called wall by face. So this is a mass object. The mass have all these different faces, and the face of a mass can act as a location line for the wall. So I'm going to do this twice if you want to watch, and then we'll do it together. To create a wall by face, you just go wall, architect. No, sorry. In this drop-down list, cancel. In this drop-down list, there's a wall by face. And before you pick a face, pick the location line. The face acts as the location line. So you can say, okay, that face is going to represent the finished face of the exterior. And then the wall is going to inherit the boundaries of the face. So just select it. Make sure you clear the base offset, because these are, Revit always remember the last input. So I'm going to change this to 0. No, I'm connected high, it's fine. And just select the face. And so if you zoom in, notice how the face of the mass object becomes the location line of the wall. All right, so I'm going to undo this, and we're going to do it together. And we're going to do it for all the walls that are on the perimeter. You go to wall, make sure you pick the generic wall brick. In the location line, pick the finish exterior. Make sure you pick the, I think I didn't pick by face, I'm sorry. I'm going to repeat again. So I'm going to escape. Wall by face, that's the command. Wall by face. In the drop-down list in the wall tool. Wall by face. We have the generic brick wall, exterior face of the wall. And all you need to do is click on that face.
Cesar, quick question. I just want to clarify, wall by face, there's a couple ways to get there. One of them is when you hit that wall command in that draw ribbon, you click that little icon. It's the same thing.
Bingo, you're right. It's the same thing.
Thank you.
It is a method And by picking this method is the equivalent of doing wall by face. Notice also that in the options bar, there is a join status that says allow. And what that is doing is creating a seamless connection between the two walls. Like you don't see the, these two walls are joined at the corner. All right, let's go around this building and let's play wall by face, wall by face. And this is super easy to do. You don't have to worry about heights. There is going to be an interference here. There are going to be two walls that are overlapping, but we're going to fix that. You see, when I do this, these two walls are overlapping, or they are like abutting to each other. But we're going to fix that shortly. And this is how you do wall by face. Now there is in my collection of walls here, one thing I did not show is that you can access the sketch lines of a wall. These are system families. You can access the sketch lines by using the edit profile. This is important. We use it a lot in modeling. Access the wall sketch line. When you select a wall and you edit the profile, this is going to give you access to sketch mode. Everything turns gray or everything is toned down. And you see these purple lines that represent the boundaries of a wall. And you can manually override this to create things like a sloping top, for example. If I want a sloping top wall, you can just grab the sketch line and edit them. You're going to get a notification that says constraints are not satisfied. What's happening is our Revit wants to have a orthogonal wall, a rectangular wall. And these sketch lines are automatically associated with a rectangular shape. And I'm telling Revit to do something else, and it's not happy. And I'm going to force it to remove the constraint. So you just remove constraint here. And then you click the green checkbox. And now I have a sloping top wall. That makes sense? I want to repeat it again.
Can you repeat how to get to the sketch mode?
Yeah, I'm going to reset the profile. You select the wall and hit the edit profile.
It says that, I see that that's in the mode ribbon. I don't have that in mine.
Did you select a curve wall?
No, it's just the face of a straight wall.
If you select a wall in the contextual tab, you don't see the edit profile button?
No, my ribbons go from create and then straight to draw. I don't have that mode one between them.
Create. It's probably you're in the family editor. Oh,
Yeah, I'm having the same issue here.
Yeah, like that button just doesn't exist in my ribbon.
Mm-mm.
did you probably select create or edit the mask instead?
I don't think so. I've just got a wall selected. And it's that same architecture wall kind of ribbon going on. But mine just doesn't have that little mode section that contains the edit.
Do you see the modify walls tab?
Yeah.
On the far right. And when you click on it, you don't see the edit profile?
No, I don't have that button. Like that whole mode where it's edit profile, reset profile doesn't exist on mine.
Does the tab says modify vertical walls?
It says modify place wall.
Modify what?
Place wall.
The same here. Modify place.
Oh, what happening is that
Mm.
you are still in phase. You're still on wall by phase.
Oh,
You have to escape and cancel the command.
okay.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Escape, cancel the command.
Yeah.
And then select the wall. And now you're going to see edit profile. Did you see that?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Revit doesn't cancel the command until you tell them when to do it. And so
Okay.
we were creating walls by phase.
Yeah.
And I think to end the sequence, hit escape, and then jump to do something else.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So edit profile give you access to sketch line, and then you can edit the sketch line manually and remove the constraint. You can also like add a loop inside a loop, create a opening. See that? I'm going to do it again. Select a wall, edit the profile. You can create a circle. Make sure that the boundaries don't touch each other. And that creates an opening. And now a loop inside another loop, which never happened. You're going to create a solid, void, solid. I'm going to remove it. But edit profile, it's something you use often in designing exterior walls, because in particular in exterior walls, you almost never have a rectangular wall. Well, more often than not. And you also use it in case you need to create like notches in a wall, like I'm going to delete the circle, but you can customize the shape of a wall. Like for example, I can delete everything in the sketch line, and then you build it from scratch. I'm going to do something funky here. This is a stair-shaped wall. Click the green checkbox. There you go. A very odd wall, but it's possible to do using edit profile. If this profile is silly and you don't like it, you just hit reset profile in the options bar in the contextual tab, and this is going to return the wall to the original sketch, and get rid of every custom thing that you did.
Hey, Cesar, I have a
Mhm.
question. So when I'm in the sketch mode and I'm trying to create it to be a slope,
Mhm.
it doesn't actually allow me to do it. Like I drag the points down and then it resets and kind of bounces back to the square.
Do you receive this warning?
Yes.
Did you click remove constraint?
I don't have that option. So even when I do the first one, it says unjoin elements. So then I would unjoin the elements and then I try to bring the other one down and then it just bounces back up.
Is your wall, why don't we look at it at the end of a class and you can share it with me?
Okay.
Just hold it there.
Okay.
In my case, Cesar, I managed to create the slope, but now I have like a pink lines, but I can't make it a wall. How do I make it a wall?
So you have a sloping wall.
Yeah, I have everything there. I remove the constraints.
And then hit the green checkbox.
Oh, I can't see that. Where is the green checkbox? I have the pink lines, but
Do you see this? I'm pointing them for you here.
no, I don't see that.
Are
Everything's
you in the modify walls tab?
I have modify edit profile.
Modify edit profile inside. Do you see purple line?
Yeah, everything has purple lines, but I have the slope, but I can't. It's kind of stuck. I can't move forward.
You don't see this green checkbox.
No, I don't. Everything's kind of grayed off. I can't see. I'm in architecture, and it doesn't. I don't know how to. Yeah.
Yeah, this is you're trapped in sketch mode. So the
Yeah.
way to get out of that is going to the modify walls tab. It says modify edit profile.
How do I get there?
It's the last tab in your ribbon.
It says okay, modify edit profile. Okay.
And now
Now
you should see the green
Yeah.
checkbox.
Yeah, and it says quit sketching. So
Yeah.
I hit that. Okay. Cannot be undone. Are you sure you want to discard edits? No. So what should I do now? Continue, no?
If you hit the red X, it's gonna ignore your changes. If you hit the green checkbox, it's going to finish the command for you. So hit the green checkbox, not the red X.
That green, that's what I did. So it says lines must be closed in closed loops. The highlighted lines are not open on one end. Oh, I see. Continue.
All right,
then.
that is a good, let me show you this. This is something super important and it's basic for system families. This is the rule for sketch mode. And this is in the test next week. Rules of sketch mode. 1, all sketch line must be in a closed loop. And the second rule, sketch lines cannot overlap. If these rules are not followed, Revit is never going to finish the command. Revit is very sensitive. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to select this wall and edit the profile. And you see here's a gap.
Yeah.
If I click the green checkbox,
Okay, got it.
Revit doesn't like it. It has to be in a closed loop. All right, let's fix that. You click continue, grab the line and make sure it snaps. And you see that little square that pops up. This is the way to make sure that something is snapping. Now, let's do the other rule. Rule number 2. These two lines are overlapping. And if I click the green checkbox, cannot do it. No. So hit continue and fix the error. Make sure that the line is in a closed loop. Make sure that endpoint snaps. And make sure that everything is in a closed loop. I'll do another example. You see, I have a loop that is intersecting another one. Hit the green checkbox. No. Revit doesn't like it. Revit is angry. You have to delete the intersecting lines. I'm going to delete them. And once the rules are followed, then Revit will finish the editing.
Yeah, now it did it. Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
All
right.
question.
If you want to, let's close the session because and then we can stay for Q&A after that.
Okay.
Let's just save this file. Next class, we're going to create a custom wall from scratch. Like if you go to the floor plan here, this is not the right partition. This is a brick partition. When you zoom in, this is a different system, this is probably 8 inches, and it has plywood in the interior. It has insulation in the middle, wood structure, and it has, if you look at the pictures, it has like this slat system, vertical slat system. So we're going to do all that next class, create a new partition type from scratch. So you can save it. We're going to pick it up from here on when we come back on the on October 3rd, we're going to reconvene. So save it. And those of you who have questions, stick around. Let's share screens. I can help you complete the exercise. And if you finish and everything's fine, just feel free to unengage. And I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one. All right, who was first? I think was that you, Shawan, having a problem?
Yeah, and so I don't know if it was that specific wall that I was playing with, but I tried to play with another wall and it did allow me to slope.
Okay, did it work now then?
Yeah, it worked. I think it was just that specific wall. Maybe it had like a property to it that I wasn't allowed to mess with, but I played with another wall that I had drawn and it did allow me to.
All right.
So
Did you have any other questions?
that's it. Just wanted to let you know.
Awesome.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Cesar, you mind sharing your screen? I want to see what's happening. I'm going to stop sharing here, and feel free to share your screen so I can help you. And you're muted, by the way.
Okay, I'm in another laptop. So my question is, how do I how do I regain that 3D panning little square?
Oh, when
one.
you're editing the profile?
Yeah, I lost that little square up there that you have, remember? North, west, south.
Oh, this is only visible in 3D. So if you're in,
I am in 3D, but I can't see it. So that's why I can't turn around the.
oh, you're in the 3D in brackets view, right?
Yeah.
This is 3D in brackets view.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to do. Go to the File tab.
File tab.
Then hit the Options button.
Options, okay.
Let me see. And then go to the user interface. No, view cube, sorry, view cube.
View cube, okay. And then say, okay.
And then click show the view cube. And make sure it says in all 3D views.
All 3D views, okay.
This checkbox should be enabled.
Okay.
And then hit OK.
Okay.
Do you see it now?
No, I don't know what's going on.
You don't see this.
No. Maybe it's, oh, I see. I covered it. Okay. I covered it with the project browser.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Make sure the project browser is stuck on the right side, or that when it's stuck, it doesn't occlude the user interface.
I see. How do you do that though? You just move it or what?
Click the project browser in any point in the head window, and then snap it. You see my cursor? The cursor needs to snap to the edge of the user interface, and that blue line is a preview of where it's gonna go.
I don't see a blue line though. It's like, oh,
So watch me.
okay.
I click on this window, Project Browser.
Uh-huh.
See how the cursor touches the edge of the screen?
Yeah.
That's going to display the blue line.
But you're frozen, sorry.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Stop share. No, I was sharing. Share screen 1. All right, here's the Project Browser.
Uh-huh.
I grab it by the head, by the window head, snap
Uh-huh.
it to the edge of the wall. You see that blue line?
No. I don't see, I just see your cursor on top of Mila Hyatt, but it's not moving.
Yeah, same for me.
Oh, so this is not broadcasting. Maybe because it's well, when the cursor touches the edges of Revit, it should snap to the edge. But for some reason, it's not broadcasting that operation via Zoom.
No, I'm not. I touch it and nothing happens. It's just stuck. I don't know.
How do you get it back when it goes away? Like my properties window is gone. I forget how you get it back. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so you go to the View tab,
Oh,
User Interface.
yeah, oh, I couldn't find that. Thank you.
Yeah. So Cesar,
Mm-hmm.
the Project Browser, is it a floating window right now?
Yeah, it's a floating window right now.
Okay, so grab it from the top and just touch the edge of the view,
Uh-huh. That's what I'm doing.
and then
And
release it, and it should stuck on the side.
yeah, but it covers it. It covers my cubes. I don't know how to do this.
No. It shouldn't be like on top of your view. It should be stuck on the side. So you have to displace the Project Browser a little further more until the cursor touches the edge of Revit. And then release it, and it should stuck on the side.
No, it doesn't. I don't know why. I'll practice and see what happens.
If you could share, I could guide you, but I'm not able to see your screen.
Yeah, I got it. Got it. Perfect.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked. The other question that I had is how do I get back to modifying the wall? I was doing that, and then I lost the possibility. Like I wanted to do those holes in the wall, and
Same here.
Yeah, so select a wall, the wall you want to edit,
yeah, done.
and hit Edit Profile. Right
Edit
here.
profile. I saw it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
done.
when you do that, you can add additional profiles inside.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Done.
Cool.
Thank you very much. That was very good. That was very useful.
All right. Next, Jim, you have any question?
Well, I was right where you left off. So I have, a wall selected, and I haven't been able to cut a hole yet. So,
So hit Edit Profile.
yeah, that's what I did. So,
And what I did next is choose the rectangle tool.
yeah, okay, got it.
And then the rectangle tool, just do it inside and
Yeah.
hit the
So
green
then
check
just hit enter when you get your shape.
Mhm.
That's good. Thank you.
Did you have any other question?
So, thank you.
All right. And I think Anna is still online. Yeah. I think you're muted.
Oh, how do you get out of that mode that I was just in?
Hit the green checkbox.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Caesar?
All right, Anna, your turn. Yeah.
Thank
Hey,
you.
no, what happened? No, I just got late to your class because of I had a late meeting for work. So I wasn't able to get to your class. So I what I want to do is I just want to just get the recording again. But is there a way where you can link all the recordings? Like, is there like you gave me the link last week, but I was wondering, is it like on your website or anything, or to get like the different links?
Yeah, and let me stop it there recording.
Okay.